I want to take us back to a simpler time, before the world was taken to a standstill by a global virus, and we as a society watch in awe as this twice a century spectacle blocks the sky and pushes us into a darkness we would not see again until 2024. An event that is mirrored 11 months later in the gaming world by a disappointing launch from Valve's first ever venture into the card game scene with Artifact. Imagine, if you will, a game where you must play 3 separate games of Hearthstone at the same time with the same hand. Wrapped in the flesh of the MOBA the game is based on, Artifact is a beautiful game. At the time it was released, I, along with many others, was extremely excited to play it. An article by Ars Technica saying the initial demo left them wanting more made the game hard to deny, especially for someone like me who tries to play every card game he can. Unfortunately, at the time of its release, I had just graduated high school and was more worried about finding a place to work than playing a game with such a complex sounding system. Shortly after its release, I would hear rumblings around that it was a dead game, and news outlets seemed to agree. In 2019, just a year after the full release of the game, articles like WordPress's unfortunately titled piece, Artifact: What Went Wrong, were popping up all over the internet. It goes on to say Artifact was too complex and confusing, and with that, it seemed Artifact was really truly dead. But was it actually that complicated? To answer that, we must first look into the weirdest choice made by a card game I have ever seen. If you were to attempt to download Artifact today, you would be met with 2 choices. Do you want to download Artifact Classic, the original game we've been talking about since the beginning, or do you want to download Artifact Foundry, Valve's attempt to surge Artifact back into the social spotlight? So, did it work? This all leads to today. I decided to give the game a try, a fair shake if you will. So I downloaded both versions and booted Artifact for the first time ever, and was met with the familiar Valve ear-blasting game startup sound, and a pack of cards with no text. While playing through the tutorial, I noticed something odd. First, the game was gorgeous. I loved the little dragon things that followed your play and showed you which board was active. Now, let's take a second to talk about how to play Artifact. There are 3 boards for you to play on, where your characters and creeps, or any creature in play that isn't a hero, protect your towers. At the start of the game, you must place 3 heroes down, preferably 1 in each lane, but that isn't required to my knowledge. Then, at the start of each subsequent round, you get to play any hero ready at the fountain. I'm not a fan of the terminology "at the fountain," by the way, as there is no way a person detached from Dodo to know that the fountain is where heroes come from at the start of the game, or go to when they're damaged to heal. You're expected to just go with it when you're told that. Why would it matter where you place your heroes though? For some reason, you cannot play any cards in a lane that doesn't have at least 1 hero of the corresponding color of the card you want to play. Want to play a 4-cost green guy, but all you have is red heroes? Well, you're shit out of luck. Until you get to the start of the round, when you can hopefully play a hero of the color of the cards in your hand. Getting back on topic. Once both players are done playing cards on the active lane, it goes to the combat phase. And each active creep and hero deals damage to their attack targets. Normally that would be whoever is in front of them, but that can be changed by cards and effects. Any death that happens at this point will reward 1 gold for each creep killed, and 5 gold for each hero. Hold on to this, as the gold will be used later. After combat, the game advances to the next lane of play, and you repeat the steps from before until all 3 lanes have been played, introducing the second main mechanic of Artifact, the shop. Here you can buy consumables, items from your deck's item list, and the secret shop that includes any non-consumable item in the game. Each item has a gold cost associated with it, which scales depending on the rarity of the item, which shows by a small colored icon towards the bottom of the card. Now let's talk about the anatomy of a card. There are heroes, creeps, spells, and items. Heroes and creeps have an attack, armor, and health stat. Attack is the amount of damage they do when they attack. armor reduces the amount of damage taken by the unit, and health is how much damage they can take until they die. Heroes also have 3 item slots, one for each stat they have. Spells have a mana cost and an effect box. Items, similarly, have a gold cost and an effect box. Honestly, the cards are amazingly well designed, simple and easy to understand. Hell, double-clicking on any card shows that almost every important word is keyworded, and when hovered over will give a detailed explanation on what that word means. I only found one card that I did not immediately understand, and unfortunately I was not able to play it before the tutorial was over. Speaking of good design, the game is gorgeous. The gameplay feels snappy and responsive, and I understood what was happening the entire time I was playing. Leading into the end of the tutorial, I defeated 2 of the tutorial enemies' towers and won the game. I was feeling great. I was starting to wonder why people didn't play it, and then it hit me like a freight train. The tutorial ended with the end game screen that showed no fanfare, just a black void partnered only with the small dragons that led me through the tutorial itself, and floating disembodied text. Though lightly dejected from the jarring jump from gameplay to nothing, I push forward. I decided to try the draft format. I loved the draft format in any game that I play. I won't bore you with the draft itself, but I ended with a blue-green mid-range pile where the strategy was just to play efficient cards as I go. I will say I wish this were told to me while I was drafting, but even though you can take heroes as you draft, and you are kind of encouraged to do so, up to 3 of each basic hero of each color is provided to you after the draft is done. I was happy. I was excited. I got absolutely destroyed in my first and only game in the draft. Hot take. But if playing cards is based on having a hero in play, there should not be a hero that has a signature spell that can kill another hero before your opponent gets to play anything. Following this, I decided to move over to the new version, as I assumed this was where they wanted people to migrate. Artifact Foundry, where the game looks noticeably worse. I'm sorry, but Artifact Foundry is just a downgrade from Classic in almost every way. The board and UI looks like a mobile game. How did we go from this masterpiece of a board to Clash Royale? Mana costs are now shown with a familiar blue gusher, bringing Artifact even closer to Hearthstone in design. The item shop now looks like something you'd see in Steam shovelware, and the playful dragons that once followed us through the game are now absent. It's hard to say what happened. Wasn't this supposed to be the resurgence? A way for the game to rise like a phoenix from the ashes? Looking into the initial reaction from the player base on Reddit, it's easy to see that they were also pretty maligned to the idea of a new client in a new collection. So other than the looks, what differences are there? Well, the mana has been converged into one mana pool that you use to play on all 3 boards. The default view is zoomed out to show the entire board all the time. And the one change that I actually enjoyed going into Foundry was the hero placement was done by players in order of middle, left, right, from the perspective of each player. This means your last hero placement will have knowledge of where your opponent's hero is in that lane. It was at this point I found probably the most egregious thing about Artifact Foundry. Though most of the art in this game is just ported from the previous game, it appears they added some new cards. Cards with art that I can only assume was drawn by the beta artist from Slay the Spire. At this point, I just want to get the tutorial over with. I want to build a deck and find whatever fun there is to be had. I guess we're stuck here for a bit. I did not have fun doing this tutorial. At all. Pushing forward, I build a deck. Honestly, this deck seems really cool. It was built around staying alive using creeps and transforming them into actually useful bodies with heroes and item abilities. I queued up for a game and waited. And waited. And waited. For an hour and 45 minutes, I sat watching YouTube until light finally showed. I finally got into a game. I was having fun. I was enjoying myself. I placed down my heroes in the exact way that I had planned on whenever I built the deck, putting the minion generating hero in the middle to make sure that I am able to play blue cards there and to spread minions around during the game. It takes a little bit for my opponent to play anything, but as soon as he does, I take advantage of the mana cheating ability from the Crystal Maiden, and get essentially a free spell. My opponent follows this up with an attempt to kill my mid lane hero as soon as possible, probably attempting to prevent the additional value I would get from the card. I respond with a card that will not only save my middle hero, but also make my right lane hero survive multiple hits from their right lane hero. Neither player having any more cards to play, we pass, and go to the next turn. And the game crashed. I was baffled, entirely discouraged. I played a bot game, and the deck worked exactly how I wanted it to. I just felt empty. Nothing in this game feels rewarding. Even opening packs, which you get when you level up, feels hollow. I would like to end this video with, would I recommend Artifact? I would heavily recommend Artifact Classic. The game's visuals by themselves make trying it at least once to see if the gameplay is for you worth it. However, the same cannot be said for Artifact Foundry. It is a straight downgrade from the original in everything I have seen. Like the event in 2018, when Eclipse preceded the death of the original, 2024 showed an Eclipse preceding the death of Artifact Foundry. Artifact actually saw a resurgence of players, 12,000 people playing the game on January 1st, and look where it is now. And with that, I would like to say thank you for watching. If you had fun, consider leaving a like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what I could do better, and thank you very much.